Welcome everybody to today's call camp. Thanks so much for joining us. Sorry about yesterday for those of you who joined. We had some technical difficulties, but we are really excited to bring you today's call camp, which is talking about what your reps need to be saying during this time with the coronavirus epidemic. We are going to wait just a few more minutes to let others join. So we will be starting in just about 2 minutes. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get started. Again, thanks everyone so much for joining us today for a special edition of Call Camp. Steve Richard is here to talk to everyone and provide some tips, best practices, advice on how to coach your reps given the current circumstances. Thanks again for everybody who joined us yesterday. We had some technical difficulties, but we are glad to be back up and running. I am Angela Goldman. Here, Steve, if you could advance the next slide. Steve and I are here obviously to help. I'll be kind of moderating the event and feeding Steve some questions, but other than that, I'm gonna let Steve go ahead and take it. Oh, let me go ahead and go through some housekeeping. Again, a lot of you have asked, we are recording this and we will be sending out that recording and slide deck after the event, so no worries. If you have any tech challenges, please go ahead and submit them in the chat window and we will address them with you individually. Finally, there are going to be some interactive components to this. Steve really wants to get everybody involved and get your feedback and opinions, so there's going to be some Q&A and polls throughout. If at any point in time you have a specific question you'd like to address to Steve, please go ahead and put it in the chat window and we will add those questions in and feed them to Steve as we go along so that he can make sure to address everybody's thoughts, concerns, etc. With that, I'll go ahead and send it on over to Steve.
Angela, thank you so much, everyone. Steve here live in Keneal Beach, beautiful Keneal Beach in St. John. Oh, wait a minute, actually, I'm not there at all. I'm in my bedroom like the rest of you. But you know what? I was there a month ago, so I'm going to pretend we're still there. That's going to be a lot better. And you know what? We broke the internet yesterday. My friend Heather Tenuto from Ziff, she sent me a text. She goes, that was pretty cool. You guys broke the internet. Turns out it was a GoToWebinar problem. It was not us. It was GoToWebinar. And there were a lot of GoToWebinars that were crashing yesterday. So I'm sorry for that, but we are back better than ever. What the heck is going on out there? You know, if you're gonna understand how to sell through this environment, even saying those words seems insane. If you're gonna understand how to do your jobs with all that's going on, you have to understand what's going on in the first place. And the best way is to look at history. This was an article that came out in the Washington Post. There was a difference in response. Philadelphia waited until it was too late. So the deaths per 100,000 people climbed up to 250, which is, you know, way too much, of course. We all agree with that. This is all about saving people's lives, whereas St. Louis took actions immediately. So Does it stink that all of us have restaurants closing and working from home and the economic impact and sports being canceled? You better believe it. And in reality, the reality, unfortunately, is that there are people who are going to have, who are going to die from this. It's going to happen. I don't want to sugarcoat that, because I think that's part of the foundation of the empathy that needs to be created. At the same time, what we're seeing with the data, I just saw this in New York Times this morning, is that, far and away more people are recovering and doing better. And then there are many cases that people don't even know. I'm getting a lot of chats here. Angela, can you take a quick look and make sure everyone's all good and we're not crashing anything again?
Yep, we are all good. We just have some folks who are asking some questions about audio, so we are going to be working that offline. No worries, you can continue.
Okay, but everyone can hear me. I've got one of these nifty new speakers that hopefully made it a lot better. We talk about flattening the curve. This is what it looks like. I got this data yesterday. If you look at taking extreme measures like they did in China and South Korea, they were able to flatten it. But an article I read in the paper in the Washington Post this morning talked about how there could potentially be several bumps. It's not one time a flattened curve, but you might have to do it a few times, which is what happened back in 1918. We don't want to end up like Italy. I feel horrible. It's my favorite country in the world other than the United States. I love it there. And it breaks my heart seeing what's going on right there right now. So everyone, this is not a joke. We gotta take it seriously. So enough about the grim stuff. What does that mean to you? Here's what it means to me. I was living Tommy boy, an inside sales rep, but always traveling, always out there visiting customers and prospects and speaking at events and everything. And they pulled me off the road. They grounded me. And now I look like a lot more like Michael Keaton in Mr. Mom. And I think probably a lot of you out there are feeling this as well. Also Mrs. Moms, who previously were working out there and now you're back and the kids' schools are canceled. It's an insane time. So you got to remember that, because a lot of the people we sell to, this is what their reality looks like right now. It's very challenging. So this brings up the first poll, Angela. Let's fire it up. Working from home. Working from home. If you could, then let's talk about work from home efficiency. Are you less efficient? Are you no more, no less? Or are you more efficient? Wow, look at the answers coming in. Everyone vote, 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 vote. This is pretty cool to see. And it starts to level out. It's leveling out. And what we're seeing is 40% of you are saying I'm more efficient. About 35% are the same, and 27% are less. So that's good news. That's good news. At least we're able to, most of you, with the exception of that 25%, is, and go ahead and close that one if you could, Angela, and we'll keep going. You're maintaining your level of productivity, which is great. Right now, it's all about, hang on, stop share results. There we go. Tell me if you can see my screen again. Are you good? Yeah? Cool.
Yep, we're all good. We're all good.
Oh, look at that, raising their hands. It's awesome. Look, it's all about people. We're all human. Sometimes my wife calls me a robot because I, barely sleep and run every day and stuff. But let's face it, we're all flesh and bone and blood, and we're all in this together. And I think this is the underpinning. I heard this from a friend yesterday. The beautiful thing about this is I've had a chance to reconnect with people that I haven't talked to, customers, prospects, friends, colleagues, because I'm doing back-to-back 30-minute Zooms, with nobody distracting me. And they said it's rare to have a chance to slow down and learn something new. I thought that was a remarkably refreshing take on what's going on. Let me tell you the story of Madison Square Garden, MSG. They don't have anything to sell. Can you imagine that? Being in a situation where you literally have nothing to sell. They sold the Knicks, the Rangers, concerts, special events. There's 100 of them doing this. These are all their managers on this video. And I got their permission to share this. This is what the day in the life, the week in the life looks like now. If you're an MSG rep, it's tough. That's tough. And I implore all of you, the minute that we have the ability to do this without causing the curve to kick back up again, it's time to get back out there and spend that money and go to events and go to sporting events and go to concerts again. And you see they've made Exec Vision, like a group call coaching session, like a big part of what they're doing now, which is just such an honor. Here's something I saw from a friend of mine, Melissa Reagan at Ring Central. She's doing an onboarding. Can you imagine that? She's onboarding salespeople using Zoom, working from home. And look at the clever way she did this. She has people have these little chalkboards to answer questions so they can make it engaging and interactive. This is American ingenuity. And I know there's a lot of people internationally. You also have the ingenuity too, but I'm going to bring it with a little bit of like hey, we are entrepreneurs. We are all fighting out there for right now. Look at this guy, Brian Butler, one of our customers. He has a team of 5 account executives and an SDR and a manager, and they sell business travel. They got nothing to sell. And rather than just saying ho hum and give up and be depressed, you know what he's doing? He is out there trying to basically rent his sales team as mercenaries. He has a hypothesis. He said, you know what? Right now, probably companies like Zoom, online learning companies for schools, those kind of people, they might need some help because all of a sudden their demand just spiked up. So we're in this crazy time where some people's demand plummeted to zero and some people's demand shot up. We got to help each other out, folks. And when I see these stories like MSG and Upside, I'm just inspired. So if you need help, if you got a lot of demand right now, his team, Brian's team, is a bunch of badasses in the DC area, and they can sub in immediately and they can produce a result for your company. I promise you that there's his contact number right there. I saw this article by Art Sobczak. He's the author of many wonderful sales books, Smart Calling and others. And he said, this is the time to pick up the phone. This is the time to talk to someone. This is the time to be human. You can't have that connection over email. We're going to do another session later on next week or the week after, something about email. It's very, very difficult. We'll touch it today, but it's tough. Picking up the phone makes a huge difference. Let's do the next poll, Angela, if you would, please. Calling from home. We know right now is a really good time to pick up the phone. I'm going to show you data that proves that in a minute. And how are you able to, oh, can you launch the next poll? Sorry, launch poll number 2 there. That's poll number 1 again. See if that, if it's loading up.
Sorry, one sec. Sorry, yeah, just figuring this out. Let's see here.
All good. Yeah, we're doing polling for the first time on Zoom. Everything has been.
There we go.
Beautiful and elegant. Thank you, Angela. How are you making calls from home? Well, some people are using their cell phones or a residential landline, like a good old-fashioned copper, or maybe you have your own home phone with voice over IP through Verizon or Comcast or Charter. Some of you might have a voice over IP phone that's provided by your company. It might be a soft phone like a Mitel, a Jabber, Cisco Jabber. Some of you might have a dialing technology that automatically logs tasks in your CRM. And then some of you might say, I don't really need to make phone calls. I schedule everything over email, and then I do all my calls via like a scheduled Zoom or GoToMeeting or WebEx. All right. And let's go ahead and launch that, if you would, Angela. And there are your answers. Look at you. My goodness. So many of you are using your cell phones only. And the challenge with that, with using your cell phones, is logging calls is just a hassle, having to do it manually. We've been using, dialing technology here where we can, it calls your cell phone to open a bridge, but then I click to call in Salesforce and then disposition as I go. And that's using a technology here that we just absolutely love. So everyone look into that. If you're not, it's the time. You kind of have to. And here's why. The reality is the data coming out of places like, in this case, Connect and Sell, Connect Leader, other people like that are showing that dials, conversations, and appointments they're holding fairly well right now. This is data from our Vorsight business. This is data from, and Vorsight, shout out to the Vorsight team. I am just like honored it's a company I founded. I don't spend much time there anymore. Everyone's working from home. They do something called outsourced appointment setting or outsourced sales development. And if you look at last week compared to this week, I mean, the dial to connect is getting better. Look at that. Fewer dials to get a connect. Why? People are working from home. Now our meetings are down a little bit, whereas last week maybe there was a little less fear and concern. This week there's certainly going to be a little bit more given what's going on. And if you watch the news, so our dial to meetings down a little bit, but the activity level, it remains high. So gang, here's the thing. You can only control what you can control. You can only control what you control. And I don't care if your job is managing existing customers. I don't care if your job is trying to upsell existing customers. If you're an SDR doing pure cold outbound, if you're a sales rep that only takes inbound calls from people who are interested in buying and all of a sudden the inbound has started to go down, or if you're doing all of your meetings unscheduled, you've got to control what you can control. And when I saw this data, I literally kind of almost started crying. I'm serious when I say that, because what it showed me is the first day of shock on Monday of being at home was, people had to get set up and everything, but now all of a sudden we're seeing our levels popping right back up to where they are. It's up to us right now to keep the global economy going. We have to keep going. There's no other choice. There's no other choice. It's no time for a black box. It's no time. You know, I hear a lot of people who will say things like, you know, prior to this crisis, say things like, oh, I don't want anybody to ever hear what I say on the phone, or I don't want to log my calls in my Salesforce. I don't want anybody looking over my shoulder and knowing what I'm doing. Everyone, it's not optional. And a friend of mine, named Dave Brown from the AISP, Inside Sales Association, he had a session at one point that stuck in my head called Selling Naked. It just stuck in my head. And what that means is basically everything's out there. You know, all of your activity metrics, all the things you're doing, the content of your customer conversations. MSG, in fact, they made a decision yesterday. Previously, they only had their reps accessing their own conversations. And they said, screw this. In times of crisis, we need to learn from each other. We need to collaborate. It's time for us to let the different people in the organization learn from each other's calls without me having to be an intermediary and give them a green light. You know, take the blindfolds off. And all this sounds great. And hopefully you're being inspired a little bit. But then you at the same time have from another woman that I've known professionally for some time, Emmanuel Scala, posting this on LinkedIn, a message to salespeople during the crisis. I know everyone still needs to do their job, earn a living, try to be as normal as possible. But please do your homework before calling and emailing about the company you're calling. Now more than ever, depending on what you learn, change your strategy, which can include maybe you don't make that call, at least not for now. So for example, Toast sells to restaurants. And shout out to my boy Ross Nabur out there, sells to restaurants. That industry's struggling. It's hurting. Restaurants are really hurting. Now is not the time to sell to me. I'm focused on my customers as I should be, not evaluating software. So, and Emmanuel, she cut her teeth and grew her career in sales, in hunting sales, new business sales, and then moved into customer success. So she's coming at this from a place of understanding what it means to also have to make quota. So this is the challenge. What do you say? What do you say to that? Because the reality is we still need to do our jobs. And I described all the flavors of jobs those are. If your job is primarily renewals, this is a really good time to have one-on-one engagement. Your marketing team might be sending out the mass emails, but I'm talking one-on-one engagement with your customers to make sure that they know that you're supporting them. Very, very important to be human, very important to do your research. So what do you need to be saying now? There's an old term from our old sales training business that I'm going to dust out and bring off. We called it 3x3 research. What that means is, how do I find 3 key points on the company or contact in 3 minutes of research? I feel like Chuck Woolery on the dating show back in the day. What was that one there? Remember that? Angela, come on. You know what I'm talking about? What was it called? Love Connection. That was it.
So, I'm a little behind the game on that one.
Find 3 key points in 3 minutes. Maybe you're too young. I'm getting old. And it's not an option. There are simple things you can do if you go on to Google and search the name of the company and change the time parameters on the search. You just go to tools and change the time parameters, and you're going to find very relevant recent information, things they're posting. Look at what people are posting on social media now. That'll give you a sense for what's going on in their world. Understand their business. Here's a tip to write down. Before you ever contact anybody, customer, non-customer, I don't care. I want you to go and answer 2 questions. What do they sell and who do they sell to? Basically, how do they make money? Now, if it's a school district or an association or the government, it still is similar. It's like, what do they serve and how do they go about serving that constituency base? Or how do they get funding if it's an association or a school district? Because they obviously have to get funding and grants and things like that in addition to public funding sources. The second big one is, and this is the part, gang, where I take the pens out. We're 18 minutes in. I'm going to hit the calls really soon, but I want you to be thinking about these while we're going through the calls. I debated going slide deck calls, too clunky. So jot these down as we're going. And then as you listen to the calls, I want you to be thinking, which of these tactics would I be deploying? Which would I try? Cut them off at the pass. This is such a powerful one. If you know what the objection, or in this case, just like what the reality is, you have to say something. And that Subcheck article on LinkedIn, it was the same, where he's like, you got to get ahead of the story. you have to address the elephant in the room. And we talk about like the old Westerns where the sheriff would ride ahead and cut off the villain at the pass. That's essentially what you're doing here, is cutting them off at the pass. So if you know you're calling, shout out to Joey out there at Qgenda, they're calling doctors. And he was texting with me yesterday and saying, what do I say to doctors? If I'm going after doctors right now and they're literally in the middle of crisis and they're gearing up with like temporary hospitals and clinics, and there's a chance that they can get infected themselves, what do you say? You have to cut it off at the pass, number one. And then the second thing is you have to be empathetic. You have to level with them, and you can't sell. The reality is if you're calling the healthcare system right now, you can't sell. If you're calling, a restaurant right now, you can't sell to them. If you're calling, sports and entertainment or a travel or a company, you can't sell. And hopefully your investors and your leadership will be empathetic of that, because if you go out there right now and you start trying to hit them hard and close deals and sell, hit the quota, smile and dial, just do the pitch, you're going to be creating so much ill will, and you're going to damage your brand so badly that I hope you go out of business, because it's not the time to do that. That's not what we need in the world right now. But at the same time, you got to do your job. So we need to do things like instill confidence. We need to be using language like, you know what, we're going to get through this. We're going to come out of it. The world will look different in several months. It'll never look the same, guys. It's going to be like, World War II and post-World War II. 2008 mortgage meltdown is minor compared to what we're dealing with right now. The world will be different, and it will be okay. We're going to come out of this better and okay. You got to build the value of the meeting. There's another one to write down. And I hear this again and again and again. And again, I don't care if it's a web lead, someone filled out a web form, or if it's outbound cold call, or if you're calling a customer scheduled or whatever. If you're not, unscheduled, if you're trying to get someone's time and you need to get an appointment with someone, there has to be a reason for why. What are they going to get out of it? In their mind is a seesaw. And the seesaw for the appointment, on one side is the time for the appointment, and on the other side is what's the value I'm going to get. And they're going back and forth between, if the meeting is more valuable than the time, I'm going to take the meeting. And if it's not, the seesaw goes this way. So if you think about that, and you think about that 30 minutes right now, or that hour, all of a sudden became a whole lot more valuable because we're in a crisis, you better have a really good reason why. And we'll go into some of those in a little bit. P.T. Barnum. The old P.T. Barnum, come one, come all, see the bearded lady. You just have to see it to understand it. You just have to, I promise you it's a good use of time. You got to talk to us to see how we can potentially help you right now. Once you see it, make a decision. And here's another powerful one I didn't put on here. Comes from Jim Camp's negotiation book called Start With No. Tell people, have people feel okay to say no. Make people feel okay to say no. Hey, look, let's schedule some time. I know you're going to be working from home. It's an opportunity to learn. We're hearing from your peers. It's a rare opportunity to slow down and learn something new. You're probably on a day when you're not going to be as busy. Check out what we're doing. And if it's not a fit, totally understand. If we can't help you right now, do your job better right now. At the end of that 20, 30 minutes, tell us, and we respect that. We understand. But we also want to bring the resources of our company to your door. So you got to start leveraging the resources. Now is the time to go back into all that marketing content. So Sam and Angela are two of the three members of our marketing team here at Exec Vision. And I'll tell you, Sam's probably gets real frustrated. Sam, chime in here, that a lot of the content that she puts out doesn't get used by the sales team. Is that true? She might be muted.
I mean, you know how it is, Steve, but they have gotten significantly better.
What a good answer, Sam. That was a good political answer. And salespeople, this is the time. Go and look at your marketing team has been cranking out amazing content for probably months or years, and you probably use a tiny little fraction of it. Go find out what's in there. There's probably stuff in there right now that will help. Videos, blogs, ebooks, PDFs, whatever. And then finally, social proof. We're in this together. Reference the conversations you're having with other people. Angela, go ahead.
We just got a question, and what about calling suggestions for higher education? Any thoughts around that? Particularly, looks like Lauren is asking about study abroad sales. contacting universities? Any specific ideas around that?
Yeah, so if you're selling study abroad and you're contacting universities, that you got to go and find resources that you have right now, because obviously they've canceled all study abroad probably for this semester. I mean, Aaron, I just want to set your expectations. It could be a long time. From what I heard, the state of Kansas canceled school through the end of the year. So we might be doing this for a while. We got to get used to this just in case. We prepare for the worst, we hope for the best. So if that's the case, Lauren, you have to get your resources together, and you better come up with a really good reason why. Is there an assessment you could provide for them right now? Is there a service you could provide for them right now? Is there a benchmarking report you could provide for them right now? Here's another simple one that we never really lean on. If you have a lot of relationships with customers and the customer says, I'm having a challenge with X, connect them with another customer. So connect one of your customers with a prospect or one of your customers with another customer. Connecting people at times like this is just so important and valuable for everyone. So it's critically important that you do that. But if you call in and you're saying, hey, the reason I'm calling is because, we offer study abroad, programs, and I know this semester's off, but let's talk about next semester. I mean, come on. Let's all be realists here. That's completely unrealistic. So we've got to bring something different than that. Any others that are popping in, Angela?
Yes, we do. We have several. Thank you guys so much for everything.
Yep.
Specifically, let me just go ahead and read them all out and you can address them as you go.
Yep.
There's a question about how to call into school systems. So not necessarily about the kind of study abroad type of thing, but how to call into school systems. I know you kind of talked a little bit about that.
Let's address that more clearly. A lot of companies like Zoom, we saw this very publicly. Their CEO and founder gave it for free to schools, to K through 12 schools. All of this could potentially apply to higher ed. If you have a product that's some sort of a digital, learning product or anything like that can aid in this situation, I can tell you right now, we live in Arlington, Virginia, one of the most progressive school districts in the country, just incredibly good schools. And we've got our 4 kids home from school. One of them's 4 years old, but they sent all these materials home. They do have their, some of their tools and resources, but what they have not done yet is they have not done virtual classrooms, for example. So everyone out there is scrambling. They're scrambling. If you have something you can bring to them, especially if you can give it to them for free or a discount for a period of time to really help. This is a time to help. It's not a time to sell. Now, look, ultimately, are you going to get a sale out of that? Probably. But even if they use it for a month or two and then they can't buy from you because it's a real, low-income school district and they don't have very good funding or whatever, it's the right thing to do. If your company can handle it financially, it's the right thing to do. If you've got a silver bullet that can help someone, be assertive about it. Be assertive and tell them, look, I know this is a sales call. Cut yourself off at the pass. Hey, in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic and the stock market collapse, the last thing you want to get is a sales call. That's a great way to lead a call. I know that you were in the middle of this coronavirus pandemic, and I know you're running a school. I know, Mrs. Superintendent, you're running a school. I know the last thing you want to do right now is field a call from a salesperson that you don't have a relationship with. I get it. The reason I'm calling is I was doing research on Cuyahoga County in Ohio, and I saw that, when you sent kids home, we saw your Twitter feed that when you sent kids home that they're not doing virtual classrooms. We sell virtual classrooms. We're not selling it to you now. That's not what you need, but we can help get you back up and running, especially for the students that need it the most. Can we find some time? Totally different conversation. Totally different conversation. Very powerful. So, cut yourself off at the pass. Use pre-call research. I was looking at your Twitter feed. I was looking at your Blink. Everyone is communicating very, very publicly right now. It's not hard to find information. Shame on you, salespeople out there. If you are not finding this information right now, you need to do it. And you know what? Even when you do it, you're going to get hung up on just because of the nature of what's going on. They are not objecting to you. I know it hurts you right here in the heart. It does, but they're not objecting to you. It's just the reality of the situation that's going on right now and the crisis that we're in. So when you get hung up on, don't take it personally. Vivian, our account executive, she was an SDR. She was an SDR manager. She then became an SDR again for Exec Vision because she wanted to get promoted to AE, and she did. And she said, look, if I get hung up on, I send him a text. And she does this because I know I have value I can bring. If you know you have value you can bring to that particular person at that particular organization, be assertive. Be confident knowing you can bring value to them. I know things are hectic. I'm reaching out because I saw this about you. I thought we could help you with this. The key word being help. Let's talk about the language. The language. Bring up and say coronavirus proactively. Understanding, empathy. We're in this together. We're in the same boat. We've got to keep going. It's going to get better. It's going to improve. We're confident that the markets are going to get better. We're confident things will eventually get back to normal. It might take a while. With that said, and here's the thing, again, level with them. You know, I still have a job to do over here. My job is to reach out to people who are not currently customers. And I know that's a really strange thing to be doing right now, but we're on the phone together. While I have you, can we do this? Can we provide you this offer? Can we give you this? Can we promise you this? Something that you can provide for them that's going to be valuable, to help, to serve, to support, and to be human. Do you see all the keywords here? You following this? Angela, I saw some flashing lights. Anything that people had to add here?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different questions coming in, a lot of advice coming in, specific, you know, the questions are around, okay, what about this particular industry? For example, retail, or somebody wants actual examples of how to build the value of the meeting. And I know you're kind of doing that, and it's really kind of unique to each individual circumstance, but perhaps if you can dig into that a little bit more. Another question.
Let's do that. Well, let's stop with those two, because there's so many. We'll have to have a follow-up later. If you're selling to retail right now, I had a conversation with a guy, I mentioned this earlier, who owns a dozen restaurants in the state of Connecticut, and he said 7 are closed, 5 are open, the rest will be closed within a few days. And he said, quote, "The restaurant industry will never be the same. It will never return to the levels it was before, just because that's how humans are. A lot of people will operate by fear, and it's horrible." But he said it's the truth. He said, "So I am already starting to think about what can I do next?" And then he had to leave and go take a call with a banker. But what are the things that he can do, like delivering, you know, frozen prepared meals from his restaurants that people can, you know, reheat at home, or have a new mobile app service so that you can have a bartender go to someone's house, or whatever. But the whole idea is, like, we have to think differently about this right now. So you need to think differently about this. And if you're selling to restaurants, again, it depends on what you're selling. But if you're selling something to restaurants that can make a big difference for them right now, you definitely want to keep going, but just don't sell it. Like, in other words, you have to either give it to them, or you have to give them an opportunity to get some of the value out of it that can help them now. Anything that can help somebody right now is going to make a tremendous difference for them. I was talking to one of our prospects. They're actually buying from us, and they're still actively buying. They sell a learning platform to restaurants, and that's the play that they're running right now. And they basically said, "Hey, look, there's more demand for what we're doing than ever, and we're going to be helping. We're going to be helping those people as they go." Here's the deal, gang. United States economy. Love this. I love this infographic I found. Love it. It's 20.5 trillion. The current, we're in the DC area. I'm fairly apolitical. Thank goodness that finally the Democrats and Republicans are working together on something. I can't believe it took this for that to happen, but you know, they're talking about a $1 trillion bailout. And I watched something on the on PBS last night from an economist, and he said it's probably going to have to be a lot more than that. But keep in mind, our value of our economy is $20 trillion. $20 trillion. We're going to be okay. Even that bailout number, still, we're talking 5% of the global economy. So now, everyone, it's time to break down some calls. We're about 32 minutes in right now. Let's do it. Let's go to work. And let me give you the genesis of this. The genesis of this was pretty interesting. So I was, you know, I read the newspaper. You saw the clipping. I actually, like, physically get the paper in the mail, the Washington Post, which I absolutely love. I kind of ignore the slant that they have, whatever. I just focus on the facts, because they have great journalism in that thing. And I was reading about this and heard about this quite some time ago. So I did a couple of things in here. I took a look at all the calls that contain coronavirus. And now the funny thing is, back here, people were talking about, in the good old days, when we're talking about coronas, we're talking about the beach, you know, for Labor Day, you know, or the 4th of July or Memorial Day. Boy, I long for those times. And all of a sudden, bam, everything is dominated by coronavirus. It's all you're going to hear about all the time in so many calls and this is an example of one right here, you know, where, you know, coronavirus is brought up. And when I started to also look at all the calls we were getting that were resulting in no's, where people weren't moving forward, where that was involved, I all of a sudden saw this pattern that we had just never seen before, where now you're pinpointing what's going on, and that's why we're here, because I said, nobody knows what to say. Like I just hear what Eric fighting out there. Keep fighting, Eric. What he's hearing what he's saying when someone says coronavirus, we as leaders need to do a better job of training on it. So let's go listen to some of those calls. The next thing I did too is I created a smart alert around coronavirus, and it started to automatically just send me stuff about what's going on within the coronavirus. And as soon as I did this, and as soon as I started to hear, I said, my goodness, again, we really have to dig in here. Anytime the stock market's mentioned, or COVID or coronavirus, and we got to do something about it. So let's go in and start doing some calls. Any questions that came in, Angela, that while I'm doing this, we can answer?
While you're pulling something up, let's see. Geez, there's so many.
I got one.
Okay, go.
One thing that's coming up a lot, Steve, is how do you manage angry people who get very vulgar with you as soon as you're on the phone before you can even get your name out there? Like, what do you do in that scenario?
You have to just let it go and walk away. Remember I showed you that chart a little while ago of the people who have it, the people who have passed away, and the people who have recovered. You don't know what it's like to be someone who's close to you passed away, and you got to be aware of that. You got to be aware of that. So the first thing you got to do is, when you make that call, you have to immediately lead with it. You have to immediately lead with, look, I know this is a terrible time with the coronavirus. I'll be brief. I did some research on you and I saw this. That's why I'm in touch. I think we might be able to help. And if at that point they say, horrible time, things are not going well here, I got to go, you got to be respectful. I would follow it up with a very, very empathetic email to say something along the lines of, I understand this is so difficult for so many people. It is for a lot of those in our company as well. We're out there pulling for each other. We're in it together. We're going to get through it. At the same time, I really do believe, based on the research I did and how I saw you're currently struggling with X, and we could probably help you with Y, and I can do that. Here's a line you can use while we take commerce off the table. Yes, I'm in sales. Yes, you're not one of our current accounts. That's not our company's mission, is not to go out there and sell right through the crisis. I mean, we're not arms dealers, people. Come on, have a soul. Instead, you put it right in the email. Our intent is to help. Our leaders are behind that. That's our mission. I repeat, can we find some time with you? We're very respectful. That's all you got. Best you can do. Want to hear some examples of that happening in real calls?
Let's do it.
All right. Everyone, know who you are selling to. I repeat that. This is a call from March 11th with the Director of Media Relations and Crisis Communication at ConocoPhillips. I got permission from Spencer and everybody else to play these calls, which thank you so much from the Vorsight team. Love you. What do you need to know about this person? What happened last week, March 9th and 10th? If you didn't know, oil prices worldwide, the oil market completely collapsed worldwide because Saudi Arabia and Russia kept their supply up here, even though global demand plummeted. And in those situations, prices plummet, and companies like ConocoPhillips get crushed. You got to know that stuff, gang. You got to know that stuff. It's time. If you don't read a business publication, start reading one right now, because if you don't know this stuff, you're going to get just destroyed on the phone. And the people that know this stuff are going to be a little bit better.
This is John.
Hey, John, this is Spencer over at Public Relay. How's it going, man?
I'm sorry, who is this?
Spencer at Public Relay. We talked at the end of
Oh, yeah. Hey, Spencer. Yeah, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How's your day going?
Well, it's been a bit funky lately. So the stock market and coronavirus and everything. I'm not able to focus on any kind of stuff right now other than that. So I do appreciate Colin. I'm not sure what we're doing yet on all that other stuff. I'm probably going to be stuck with that. We prepaid with our vendor for the year, and I'm probably going to be stuck with them. But at the end of the year, I'm looking to switch things up.
Okay, all right, no worries. I mean, I can, first of all, I completely understand everyone I'm talking to is kind of dealing with that coronavirus stuff. So no worries there. You're not the only one.
Is that in the stock market? Our value went down 25% yesterday, so it's been an ugly week, and so any kind of spending has been hit hard. But anyway, but let's touch base later in the year, and because I will want to definitely going to talk to some vendors and put out some feelers. Okay.
Okay. All right. No worries. I'll just reach back out at a later time then.
All right. Let's pause there. So here's what happened in this call. So. And Spencer, thank you again. He's a domino. So the first thing you got to understand is a domino could fall this way, the domino could fall this way. We could have absolutely gotten the appointment with him, and he was actually quite understanding. So the first thing you got to do, you got to lead Spencer when you call John by saying, "Hey, John, Spencer, Public Relay, how you doing? You remember we spoke a couple weeks ago?" This was one of those calls where he spoke a couple weeks ago, and then he was like calling. He sent the information to like book the appointment, so he had an agreement in principle from John. So, hey, John, we spoke a couple of weeks ago. You told me to call you back. Hey, look, I've been monitoring what's going on at your company. That's another great term. I've been monitoring what's going on at your company, or I'm aware, or I did some homework, I did some research, and I see that, I know global oil markets collapsed. I know that your stock's gone down. I get it. And then I'd ask this question: Are you working from home? Have you guys moved to work from home yet? So you're very empathetic about that. I'm really sorry to hear that. You got to realize a lot of these employees, like my father-in-law, he literally has his entire retirement wrapped up in one stock right now, which I deplored him, please, John, don't do that. And he still has it. So you got to think from the standpoint of a retiree that this is their nest egg. It's a scary time. If you've been buying ConocoPhillips stock your whole career as a good, company soldier. So you got to address that. And at the same time, you heard something interesting in what John said. John said that, and that's the reason I put this in the 40%. At any given time in any given market, 40% is susceptible to looking. This guy's absolutely susceptible to looking at different vendors that are different than Public Relay. So shout out to our friends at Public Relay for letting us play this call, where they have some, different communications tools I should know more about that I do. But basically, this guy's like, yeah, look, I'm interested. He's an interested party, but he's saying not right now with all the chaos that's going on. Here's what you say. Are you working from home? Yeah, we work from home starting next week. How about we do this? I know that this is not the right time to buy. Let's take commerce off the table entirely. I know this is a decision that you're making later in the year. With that in mind, we have some things we might be able to do to help you. While you're working from home, you're probably going to have a little bit more time once you get through the initial craziness and the transition. Can we find some time with you later next week after you're settled into working from home? Because you'll probably have more time. And here are some interesting things to say. Everyone's telling us they're not commuting. Everyone's telling us that they're not doing business travel. They have more time than they did before. So leverage that. Any comments that came in on this?
Nothing specific about this particular one, no.
Okay, let's go to Alexis's call here with the, hang on, actually, let me look here real quick. No, you know what I want to do? I want to go to this call right here, which is in fact a call with this gentleman at Anvil, Bill Hobbs, who is our client for the Vorsight business. I want you to hear how we collaborate. So this is more of a customer call. When you have a customer call, you need to collaborate and put yourself on the same side of the table to try to solve the problem.
So anyway, I pulled a list. I'm in our software, obviously, of all of the calls for your campaign that resulted in a no, or what we call a not a yes, not a no. That's the people who are like, give me, send me some info, give me a call back later. Mm-hmm. And given all this stuff going on with coronavirus, and you can see all of these ones are ones that I've scored and coached. You're going to get more people saying no. Now, one of the things that we're going to do with our own folks is, just like I'm going to be teaching on the webinar, guys, you got to get ahead of it. You got to you have to go on to the call saying, look, I know you're in supply chain. I know the global supply chain is disrupted right now. I'm guessing you're probably working from home, whereas before you were doing more traveling. This is the opportunity to learn about something new. We can't control what's going on out there, the macroeconomic picture. We can't control it. At the same time, you have an opportunity to kind of take a step back from everything and revisit all the things that you're doing right now. So I'm working with the team on that kind of messaging, and I'm hoping that will help. So I think the short of it is when the good changes went through, then we got slammed with this, last week. And it's like, son of a gun. Well, on both sides.
Yeah. And what I would say is now, our approach is all these people need help because they're the ones that are.
And this is important. Bill Hobbs is at Anvil. Anvil does supply chain software in a really innovative way of handling supply chain for folks, where it's very frictionless and all of that. So they actually have some solutions to some of those global supply chain issues. So just again, listen to Bill's tone and his voice and what he's saying.
Well,
on both sides.
Yeah. And what I would say is now, our approach is all these people need help because they're the ones that are sourcing here need help in China. And it's a good time to say, look, we've got optionality for you. We can actually source for you in China. We also have, our software platform that'll give you visibility in your entirety of what you're doing. But we're seeing incredible results with people that are using us.
So let's stop on that because I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. I had no idea. And that message is so simple, so elegant. And I think a lot of people, if again, you put what I said in the beginning, combined with that message, hey, look, we understand this is a huge disruption in the global supply chain. You're also probably.
And there you go. And this is how you have to collaborate with people right now and have that sort of engagement. Let's go and listen to a voicemail. Now, this is a pure cold outbound voicemail. Previously, there was a call where I think the appointment was scheduled and got rescheduled. It was rescheduling, but look at who it is. So in this case, it's our friend Rich. Rich is an SDR with Exec Vision, and Rich is calling into Gojo. Gojo, if you don't know what Gojo is, they make cleaning supplies. Well, isn't that interesting? What do you think's going on with their business right now? Probably up significantly. So again, it's the same sort of thing where you have to know something about the organization. Know who you're selling to. What do they sell? Who do they sell to?
Dean, how are you? It's Rich Mazzacani with Exec Vision. Out of all the sales leaders I speak to, I'm sure you must be the busiest right now given the coronavirus outbreak. Hope everyone is safe over there and you guys have stocked up a lot of supplies for you and your employees. I do have a quick question in regards to your reps. I know you guys purchased the old Rubbermaid location a few years ago, have sales reps in Worcester, Akron, Whitman, and Cuyahoga. Would love to pick your brain about one thing.
And Rich did a great job, and I'm going to give him a little razz. Rich, I'm sure you're watching this. So it's not Worcester, it's Worcester, Massachusetts, and Cuyahoga, Ohio. That's why I said Cuyahoga before. But other than that, what he did was awesome. What he said is, hey, look, I know that you purchased Rubbermaid, and I know that you have these different teams of reps in these different locations. And I know that you're probably swimming in demand, and I've got some questions, and I've got something where I think we can help. I think we can help because if all of those people are working from home right now and your conversations are a black box, you don't know what people are saying. And oh, by the way, even if you do, it's very difficult to find coachable moments. There's no way to surface them. And then once you surface those coachable moments, so look, we can help. We can help you solve that problem right now. Again, take commerce off the table. We have resources and things that will help you, like surprise, surprise, this webinar. So Dean, if you're on, thank you so much for being here through that as well. But look, you're going to get no's. You're going to get a lot of no's as well. And I want you to hear an example of, I'm trying to play different types of calls for everyone here. This is an example of a call that was a scheduled sales call, because another thing that we're seeing, what a surprise, is a lot of scheduled sales calls are falling off. So let's listen to one that falls off, and how do you handle that?
I'm probably going to need to reschedule. Have some things that I need to deal with here in reference to the current situation nationally. Our company's rolling out a couple of pieces of information to support, and that's kind of eating up my time. So is there an opportunity for me to reschedule in the next 2 weeks?
Oh yeah, man, let's definitely reschedule. I also know that this whole coronavirus thing and everybody working remote is kind of getting in the way of a lot of business. So yeah, I'm okay with rescheduling. Ideally, I would aim for late next week if that works for you. But if the week after that is better, I can also make that work if it's on Monday or Tuesday, because Wednesday through Friday that following week is going to be a little tough for me.
Let's do tentative late next week.
Okay. Would it be beneficial to, so let's see, this one is scheduled for 3 Eastern. Does that time work for you? I can shoot it for.
And what's happening here, Carlos, shout out Carlos, one of our account executives at Exec Vision. Thank you for this. He rescheduled, he's empathetic about it. I'd like to know a little bit more about what the crisis is. So this is what I said is like, while you have him, what questions can you ask to understand what he's going through? This is the time to be curious. This is time to be intellectual curiosity as opposed to business curiosity. I mean, both go together. This is a time to ask those questions. This is the time to understand who is that impacting. So if you're in this scenario, I would love to hear, as a sales professional, you're asking more questions about what's going on, so that, and tell them, look, so that I can bring the right resources to the right call. Can I ask you just a few more questions while I have you on the phone? And everyone's going to say yes. And then say, well, what are you seeing? Are people from working from home? What do you have any emergencies that are happening right now that we can help you with? All those kinds of questions. If you have someone who's willing to talk and engage, you need to ask those questions now. You need to be bringing that into the conversation and asking those things now. So important. All right, now I want to listen to an example of this call right here and this will lead to, what are the offers? What are the things that we can provide for value? This is one of our managers in our Vorsight business, Alex Hawk, and he's calling on Saputo. Now, if you don't know Saputo, they're a maker of dairy products and cheese, and they source, I believe, in Canada. And he's talking to one of the Canadian executives, so let's listen in.
Hello? Hey, Mike, this is Alex over at Anvil. How are you? Over where? Over at Anvil. I recognize I am catching you out of the blue, and I can imagine you're probably working the home front, same with everybody else, but do you have a quick sec? Yep. All right, perfect. Well, hey, look, I was doing some research, and I'll be very, very brief, because I know a lot of people don't necessarily want to talk right now, especially regarding supply chain operations, given what's happening with the market. And look, I know that, at least from conversations I've had with a lot of other folks that are producing these goods, sometimes in that dairy space like you, unfortunately with what's happening with coronavirus, that's obviously disrupted a lot of the market. And I know that, at least in y'all's case, the stock has gone down by about 30% in the past month as a result. I was actually reaching out to see if we could find a time to discuss how we're helping other folks redefine their suppliers right now, and obviously trying to change the market away from more of a Chinese dependent situation and move towards more Canadian, European supply chain lines. I didn't know if maybe you had time to talk later today or tomorrow about that.
To be honest with you, I really don't. And those are usually conversations that happen through our procurement group. And with being in dairy, the majority of our supply chain is, and the fact that we're a Canadian company is domestic, Canadian, and European already. We have very little, luckily, very little dependence on China right now. So.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear that you guys definitely have more of a foothold there with some of the domestic Canadian goods.
And what's happening here is that Alex came in, good job with the fact that he came in with like a hypothesis. Global supply chains are a mess. We can help you out now. I'd like to hear you do that in a more concise way, but it didn't work. And you identified that very quickly and said, yeah, so much for that. Well, bump up, wow. So if you're in this sort of situation, it's just like hey, Mike, look, let me level with you. It's a very difficult time to be doing the job that I'm doing, where our job is to reach out to new potential, prospective customers for Anvil. Imagine if you're me and you have to make calls and send emails to heads of global supply chain. It sounds like things are going well for you there, which I'm very, very happy to hear. And of course, the stock's going to rebound. Are you guys going to work from home? Are you working from home now? When do you start working from home? Look, everyone's telling me it's a chance to learn. It's a chance to take a step back and learn what's going on. Can we find some time with you? We can share some really interesting benchmark data. And let's talk about the value of the meeting. What is the value of the meeting? You can share benchmark data. You can share any sort of content pieces. If in your company you have thought leaders, if in your company you have experts, this is the time to say, hey, look, while you're working from home, we'll be very brief, keep it to 30 minutes. Let's get on the phone. I can bring in this person, well-renowned, well thought of, well-respected thought leader or sales engineer. Every day they talk to, 2 or 3 of your peers, other heads of supply chain, and it'll just basically be a free service, to help you out during what's going on right now. Or another one is an assessment. Maybe you can offer some sort of an assessment for the organization. So what you really need to do, this is not something that an individual salesperson can do alone. You have to talk to your company. And when you get with your company, you got to find out what are those company resources that you can deploy at this particular point of time to handle what's going on out there in the world. What can you do to deploy that? All right, I'm going to switch back over to the slides. What else? Do we have any other good advice that came in, Sam or Angela? While you're on that, I want to see if somebody had, look, I don't really know what to say, to be honest with you. 2008, we called a lot of people and we said, we're going to get through this. We're going to be better for it. We kept going, and we got through it. But I've never lived through this. This is unprecedented in human history. So Sam, Angela, anything coming through? And actually, Angela, pop the poll while I ask that. So if you could pop up. Yeah.
Sure. Let me get you the third poll.
Steve, it's not a question, but I just wanted to throw out there that Alex Hawk is getting absolutely roasted in private messages to us.
You know what? And there's another thing too. Got to have some fun. Gotta have some fun. And Alex, you know what I'm going to say about that? Alex picked up the phone and he made the call. And so did Misa on that last screen. And so did Spencer. And so did, Brian. And so did Michael. And so did Vivian. And the fact that they're going like that is hats off for everyone. You got to go. You got to be more informed. Is that poll up? Do you find it?
Yep, it should be up and running. Can people not see it?
I don't see anything yet, but maybe it's me.
No, it says that it's going. Let me relaunch it.
Yeah, Zoom. Good job, Zoom. You definitely kicked GoToWebinar's tail on this one. Is anybody seeing the poll? Hands up. How we doing?
I relaunched it again. Still not working. I don't see anything coming through.
Well, we'll try that one here.
Oh wait, no, there we go. I saw one person. Hopefully it's
working.
A second.
I can't see it over here for some reason. Maybe it's because I'm on full screen. Let me go off. No.
Nope, only one response so far. So something's going on.
No, hang on. Let me try on my side. Hang on.
Okay.
Oh, I know why. We had to stop sharing the last one. Okay, so now poll number 3. All right, here we go. And this is relaunch polling. Let's try that. Okay, I think that's up. Did that work? Heck yeah, I got it. We're smarter than the machines. While your reps are working from home, how are you doing call coaching? We're not doing call coaching, real-time call monitoring and feedback. Is anybody seeing this? I'm not seeing votes coming in.
Yeah, I think there's something going on.
Yeah, looks like the answer is no. All right. Well, Angela, if you could fill with that, please. I would like to see what they have to say. So let me say.
Steve, I got it working.
You did? Cool. I just can't see the results. What are they saying, Sam?
So far, it's looking like more than half aren't call coaching.
More than half are not call coaching. Hey, everyone, and let's define call coaching. Call coaching can be something as simple as like, you got 2 salespeople, you do the same thing, you get together once a week for 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes with a cocktail or a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, and you just listen to each other's recordings. You don't need anything to do that. I mean, if you use, phone systems and stuff like that, you can record them real quick. There are some free recording tools for cell phones. They don't capture compliant recordings. So here are things that you need to start doing immediately. Number 1, you need to, and if you could stop that poll there, Sam, thank you. Beautiful. All right. So number 1 is you need to gain access to customer-facing conversations. You have to be recording in a legal and compliant way. If you need help with that, here we go. We have a lot of resources that will help you during this time to record in a legal and compliant manner, and also have the information you need in your company so you finally have the data. But then having the data is one thing. You got to connect it to performance. So number two, you have to define, what does a good call sound like? What does good look like? For all those people who are razzing Alex Hawk, here's my question for you. What would you do differently? How would we define those key behaviors? Making sure everyone in the management team is on the same page. And then calibrate. We need to calibrate with those success standards, with managers, with reps. It needs to be organic, especially because we're working from home. You don't have any visibility, get visibility. If you got a black box and you're on your cell phone, you got to change that immediately. You know, a platform like Zoom, you can record those calls. They can then go into systems like ExecVision, or you can go access them there. And if you're using your cell phone for making an unscheduled call, then you need to get something where you're clicking to call using your CRM and logging the task and getting a compliant recording. You need something like that immediately. There are wonderful providers out there, you know, like the Dial Sources and Dial Pads that specialize in these kinds of things, and other CRM platforms like, you know, Sugar and others. You need to be doing this. Number four, you need to have some dedicated time. If your manager is too busy, you got to do it for yourself. It's not an option anymore. This is no longer optional because you're living in a vacuum, and we might be living here for months. So you need to have 30 minutes or an hour a week that's invested in you, in your own development, to sharpen the saw. Why keep chopping the tree? Why keep chopping the tree when your axe is dull? Sharpen the axe and then go chop the tree. You're going to get way more done. Everyone, this is about working smarter, not harder, especially when you're working from home, because the smarter you work, the faster you get your job done, the sooner you can get back to the other things that you're doing. And then you need to track skills improvements over time. You need to email. Here are a lot of the things people are saying and getting. I'm not going to be able to make it. Several competing priorities. This one's going to have to slide. Thank you to Max Rose at Vorsight for hitting us up with these. These are great. Let's talk in a few weeks. We're going to do an email best practice. I wanted to squeeze it in here. It wasn't enough time. When we do it, I'm literally going to write responses for these, like in the moment, or I'll bring some to it. Okay, let's still plan on tomorrow. Things could change though with everyone working from home. So everyone's being very non-committal. What do you say to this? And you saw this one was from Borden, who's clearly a very key component of making sure that the global food supply chains are intact, which is the most important thing. Times like this really remind us of what you need, you know, nice to have versus need to have. We all need to eat. That's a really important thing, right? And then a lot of us are getting things like this. Apologies, but I'm out sick with a virus and not able to attend. What do you say to this? How do you respond? If you want to boil it down to the simplest thing, I'm going to boil it down to 2 axioms. And I see my kids doing this. Axiom number 1, seek first to understand, then be understood. Seek first to understand, then be understood. And axiom number 2 is treat other people as you would like them to treat you. The golden rule, not that hard. So a little Stephen Covey, a little golden rule. My kids now have these old journals called the bucket filler journals, and they write down in their journals every day, you're either filling up somebody else's bucket or you're taking out of their bucket. What did you do today to fill up somebody else's bucket? And I know people are saying, well, I know, but what offers can we use? How can we do this? There are so many different things. The offer that we came up with for our business, get creative, folks, get creative. The offer we came up with our business is a free conversation assessment. If you're struggling right now and you don't have that visibility, we will do this for you. And see if you can launch that last poll too, if you want us to get in touch with you. If you'd like us to contact you for the conversation assessment or call recording laws or anything we can do to be of help to you and of service, we, like you, are less focused on commerce. We're less focused on sales. Our Chief Revenue Officer, Scott Shaw, said, look, you know, I think everyone recognizes the numbers are not going to be as good as they were before. We have to keep selling, of course, but at the same time, right now, we need to help. We need to help. So if you want us to, if we can provide you any assistance with any of these things, we're going to not be making it a sales pitch for you. We're going to really seek to understand and fill your bucket and provide resources that you need in the times that we're living in right now. All right. Questions and answers that came in that we can address. What do we got?
Steve, there's a ton. There's way more than what we can cover. So Sam sent out a message in the chat window. She's going to work with you to set up some time next week just to do a Q&A only. So
Yeah.
people will be able to jump on and ask you their specific questions, get everybody's questions answered. We will try and reach back out to everybody who had questions during the session today, but we do know that we are over time.
Yep.
So thank you guys so much for all of your time. And again, be on the lookout. Follow Steve on LinkedIn, and you will get information on when that Q&A session will be.
And actually, Angela, before we end, one more thing. Are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Hey, can you see my screen again?
Nope, I only see,
My video.
yeah.
Okay. Hey, so everyone, keep those questions coming. Angela, Sam, if you could please, let's capture all of the tips. I have a feeling there were a lot of people trying to help each other out with the tips and everything. Let's make sure we capture all that information so we can cover it next time. And then with that, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to my catamaran, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks everybody for joining. We will be sharing the video and the recording shortly. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe, stay healthy. Take care. Bye-bye.